Hi everybody, I'm John Meekins, and you probably all know me from the human trafficking work that I've done. I work at a really large prison, but let me make some adjustments here. I'm not really allowed to say where I work, so just for the sake of argument, I just want people to know that I don't speak for anybody else other than myself. I'm just an expert on what I've seen and what I know. So anyway, I'm not here to throw any agency in particular under the bus, but I do work at an agency where I don't really care for it, but if anybody would like to hire me to come out there and train your agency or work for you and do like some really cool stuff as far as the human trafficking, I do have a pretty cool resume online and that sort of thing, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But people always are kind of skeptical about human trafficking and how and why it would why it would matter in a prison or a jail setting. And before I get into that, I'm just going to go a little bit about my history. Oh, somebody's instant messaging me. Let's see what they have to say. Yeah, if you want to talk to me, you can always instant message me. So anyway, I've been working in the human trafficking field for quite a while. But more than that, I've been working in criminal justice. I've been working at one of the largest women's prisons in the country, and I'm not allowed to say which one. And like I say, I have to always do a disclaimer. I don't speak for anybody else. I speak for John, and what I've seen. So people will say okay, Meekins, well, who are you and what makes you an expert on human trafficking and what do you know about women in prison and that sort of thing. Just like a little background on me. I've worked for a really large women's prison in the United States, for one of the biggest ones, for well over 11 years, going on 12. And and I've worked only with women. And I've had interactions with tens of thousands of women over the years. The prison where I work, we have, on average about 1,500 women, 12 to 1,500. Then, there's a lot of turnover. And the thing is they tend to come back over and over. And I'm always interested in, what didn't you get the first time that, why didn't you get your degree? Or why did you come back? And what is it that you didn't get that you felt that you should have needed when you came to prison? So a little bit more about me. I have a lot of training in gangs, and I used to go to a lot of these gang meetings. I was one night I was at work somewhere, and somebody said to me, we were debating. I was on midnights, and when I just made sergeant, you go to midnight shift. And we used to screen the mail, and I found a piece of mail, and a friend and I were sitting there debating. We're like, looking at this piece of mail that somebody wrote, and we're like, and the guy's like, I said, hey, that's gang paraphernalia. That's like some kind of gang signal. And the guy says to me, oh no, that's not gang stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it is. There's got to be gang stuff. And so we were debating, and the worst thing that you can do in a prison, if you work in a prison system, is you can be curious. You're not supposed to be curious. You're not supposed to ask questions. You're supposed to just let the stuff go through. But anyway, I'm not that type of person. It doesn't work for me. I'm just really, really interested. And some way, what I did was I ended up joining a Gang Investigators Association, and I spent like $100 of my own money, and I went to, I drove halfway across the state, and I took a class on gangs. And come to find out, in an 8-hour class on gangs, it's like, I was like blown away. I could not believe all this stuff I learned in an 8-hour gang class. And I was just like, I'm like, wow, I've been staring at this person and she's had all these gang tattoos for years. And I didn't really know what I was looking at. She had the, I didn't know that was a blood tattoo. Or, I'm sitting there looking at photo albums, they're like Meekins, he loves pictures and stuff. When I go through, property for an inmate, I'm always looking at the photo albums, and people will say, Well, he just loves the photos, but you can tell so much about why somebody's in prison by looking at their photo album. All of a sudden you're gonna just see like all this gang paraphernalia, and if you haven't had any training, any formal training outside of what a prison would offer, you wouldn't know what you're looking at because a lot of the training that a prison offers is maybe like a quick 2-hour class in the academy, and if you don't maybe maintain your knowledge and that sort of thing, you're going to lose it, and the gang stuff, it kind of evolves and it changes. But anyway, so I had a lot of training, and I was going to a lot of these courses on human trafficking and or on the gangs, and what I found is I was getting disrespected by the gang people because I would go to these gang classes and people would say, they say, "Oh wow, you work at a women's prison, or you work in a prison? Oh wow, you must be up to your eyeballs in gangs all day long. That must be like really exciting." I'm like, "Yeah, I deal with gangs all the time." And people would say, "Well, what prison do you work at?" And I say, "Well, I work at the women's prison up the street." And they're sitting there, "Oh, you work at a women's prison?" And they roll their eyes and then they walk off. And they're like, "Well, they're not really gangbangers." But let me tell you what, women are up to their eyeballs in gang activity, and they're some of the most they're very very female gang members. They're very underestimated. When you look at some of these women that in a prison, you know, if you work at a women's prison, like a hardcore hardcore women's prison, well, their boyfriends are hardcore gangbangers across the street. And a lot of the women are facilitators with a lot of the criminal activity. For instance, Florida inmates are #1 in the country for I don't know if it's still true, but they're #1 in the country for tax fraud. We outdo tax fraud, or just people in Florida in the jails and the counties and stuff, and it's not on any particular agency, but it's just all over the country. The tax fraud among inmates is really horrible, and a lot of the tax fraud goes to fund, particularly in like South Florida, it goes to fund a lot of the gang activities. Now, so anyway, I kept getting disrespected by the gang people. They kept rolling their eyes, and they act like, well, since you're not really a sworn officer, you just work in a prison, you work in women's prisons, well, maybe you're not really an official one of us. So anyway, as I kept going to these gang meetings and different ones, I kept hearing them start talking about gangs and human trafficking, and then one time the guy's like, they just like read something off of a paper, and they're just kind of going down this list, and the guy says to me, "Hey, how you doing, Becky? Hey, Leanne, how you doing? Thanks for joining in. I'm doing a little human trafficking training, but I don't want anybody to know where I work, so I just want to make sure that everybody knows that I'm not talking about anything, and I'm not talking about any place in particular, but so one day, I'm in this gang thing, and this gang group, and people are saying, this county in Florida, near where I live, is the #1 destination in Florida for people being trafficked from the Texas border by MS-13, and all of a sudden, I'm sitting there like, whoa, hey, what was that about the gangs and the trafficking? and it dawned on me that none of these people, there are probably like 30 of them, and none of them knew anything about gangs, or not the gangs, but the human trafficking. They just kept like, this guy, he was just like reading off a paper. He didn't really have any more detail other than that. And so anyway, let me do something real quick. Let me go to my Facebook page. So anyway, when I'm done with my little podcast here, I'm always like interested in people that might have any feedback on, maybe how I could do it better. I don't want to just hear like, "Hey man, you suck," or something like that. But anytime I could get some positive, hey, maybe you ought to wear a different tie, or, maybe a different background. That'd be cool. Or maybe you should do your bio a little more. So anything that's positive, and maybe I can tweak. I'm always looking to do better. But just kind of a little bit of, this is kind of like my background about me, And so anyway, after getting disrespected by some of these gang people, I noticed one day that there was, on the gang website, that there was a notice for a human trafficking conference. And it was an international conference, and it was in Clearwater, Florida. And so anyway, naturally, I spent my own money because where I work, they don't have money for anything, other than what they really want it for. And so anyway, let me see. I'm missing some of the comments. Hold on. The comments are kind of hard. I'm trying to answer questions. Let me see if I can answer people's questions. Somebody said something about federal funding. But yeah, I'm kind of hard to keep up with the the incentive adoption for federal dollars turns into $12 billion a year. But with the human trafficking stuff that I've noticed in the prison, I just got to tell you that, let me see, the gang stuff was kind of interesting because I went to this, they had that notice for the International Association of Human Trafficking Investigators, and I went to that conference, and it was the first annual one, and what was really embarrassing is there were probably like 150, 200 people in the room, and they were like from all over the world. And there were a lot of them from Florida, of course. And what happened is, that week, at that first day, they said, hey, if anybody's in here is doing human trafficking, you're working cases or whatever, raise your hand. Let's see how many people in the room are dealing with human trafficking. Hey, Kenny. And so next thing I know, I'm looking around the room, and like 99% of the people raised their hands. Everybody else was doing human trafficking. And so anyway, I felt like that small. It's like, wow, I'm really in the wrong place, for human trafficking. But I sat to it, and it was really kind of a much different program. It was a different conference than any other kind that I'd ever been to. Hey Kenny, how are you? Hey, when you're done, if you could share my podcast, if you could share my cast here on your different pages, that'd be cool. Especially if I don't mess it up too much. But anyway, what was really kind of neat is I met these people from all over the world, and a lot of the people that I met, they were the first people in their agency that ever identified human trafficking. And I remember that there was a woman, and she was from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and she found that there were these, and she had a trafficking situation, and she kept talking to her supervisor saying, hey, there's all these people from, there's all these people, and they're coming from, this one little town in Hungary, and they're doing stucco, and they're doing the stucco thing, and they're all living in the same house, but they get up and they leave every morning and stuff. And some way, this woman said, well, the Crown in Canada said, well, hey, that's not trafficking. If they're not tied down, they can come and go as they please and stuff like that. But the thing is they didn't speak any English. And Hungarian is one of those languages where it's like, there's not even anything remotely close in Europe to Hungarian. So, they really didn't have any translators. And so, they were talking about how, when she was with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, she would like go in there and they would have translators, but, they're having to use the people that were the enslavers as translators. So I thought that was really neat. But another, in some way, I just learned so much about the human trafficking stuff, and the people that are the head of the human trafficking task, the human trafficking groups down there. What was kind of funny is the president of the association, his name is Jeremy Lewis, and he works with, I think he's with the I'm pretty sure it's Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, and he took a class on human trafficking. And like 2 weeks later, he had like the biggest human trafficking bust in the history of Florida. And I'm sitting there like, oh, you worked a case, Jerry. Jerry, I worked a case where that happened in Riverside, California, sick. So I'm going to kind of narrate as best I can the comments. The comments are kind of hard to see sometimes, but I'll do the best I can. But what was really interesting about the human trafficking stuff is, when I was at that conference, I was only there for 2 days, and I instantly knew that I had victims in my prison. I used to work in, I have a pretty good rapport with some of the women where I work, and how do I feel about the vigilante system? Justice the system fails to provide. I'm not big on vigilante justice. But it's just not me. I'm about the legal means. If you can get them legally, that's fine. But I also believe in karma. Hopefully, if the justice system fails, hopefully they get cancer and they die a painful death. But what's kind of interesting is, when I did the human trafficking thing, I went to that class. I'd had inmates for years saying to me things like, hey, you know what? I was molested by my family's. My mom used to take me to these child molesters, right? And they used to molest me and have sex with me so that my mom could have money for her drugs to support her habit. And, I would sit there and I'd be like, wow, that's kind of sad. And I didn't really know exactly what I was listening to or what to call it, but I knew I should have done something, right? And Becky, I know that if you talk to some inmates and you get to know them a little better, you're going to hear stuff like that. And it's not uncommon at all. That's one of the indicators of somebody that's been trafficked, or that's one of the vulnerabilities if there's drug use in the home and maybe there's a single mom and she's an addict. Anytime there's an addict and there's pedophiles around, the kid's vulnerable. So anyway, I went back to Clearwater. I went back to Florida, or to the prison, and there are these. I went to this website, and let me show you if I can show you. There are these like posters that you can get. They're called like "Look Beneath the Surface," and I used to like put those in the window, and they're not like, they're from the Department of let me see. Hold on, they're from a pretty good, reputable federal agency. I think the Department of Health and Human Services. Right? And someway I just started putting those up in the dorms, like in the windows, but then I'd always take them down before I left, and because I didn't want to get in trouble, so I'd put them in the window and I'd take them down, and then what was kind of interesting is one day an officer came to me and they said, hey, they saw the sign, and am I breaking up? You guys can hear me okay, right? But anyway, if you're having trouble hearing me, let me know and I'll restart the broadcast. I got a little frog in my throat, so hopefully it's not me. But after this conference in Clearwater, I went back and I kind of talked to the inmates for a little bit, like, will we have count time or something? I went in the dorm. Guess what? Am I breaking up, Becky? Do I need to restart? Oh, sorry, I need to restart. I'm getting crappy signal. I thought I was getting crappy oh. I'm going in and out, huh? Let me see how I need to do this. Let me switch servers real quick, alright? Not anymore? Okay, if I keep breaking it up or whatever, just let me know, because I don't want to do a crappy broadcast, and, yeah, and so anyway, what happened is, I went back to this prison where I worked, and I started talking to the inmates. And I just said, I said to him, I said, I just took this class on human trafficking, and I'd be really, if you want to pull me off to the side, I'm not gonna like spread your business all over the prison, but I'd really be interested in just like hearing maybe some of your stories, and maybe if you've been trafficked or sold somewhere. And what was really amazing is, the number of women that came forward, and they would read the articles in the window, and I knew that they would be like conversation starters. And it was absolutely stunning because, I had inmates say, hey, I've had a pimp for like 5 years. They say, you want to read some letters from this guy? And I'm like, yeah, I want to read some letters from a pimp. You're darn right I want to read some letters, right? And so anyway, I just, over the years, I really researched and the letters are just really blatant. It's like, hey, this guy, and I'm sorry about my language, but I can read you a letter that came into our prison, word for word. This guy's sitting there, and he's still an active trafficker, and he's telling her about plans that he's planning to, what he's planning to do with her when she gets out and stuff, and he wants her to get other women, and to come work for him. And people say, well, it's not an issue in the prison, but in this one letter he writes, we need a team of like 8 solid bitches who not on no jealous shit, and we can't go wrong. He said, baby, I know there's hoes in there with you, and I know you know some real people, so let's make it happen. Let's build on some shit. Them hoes need to come home to something real, feel me? And so, I mean, that's male that comes into a prison, like, and the only reason that is coming in and they're talking like that is because they probably been doing it for years and nobody's noticed anything, nobody's done anything about it, And then there's another letter from the same guy, and he talks about yeah, you can save it. I'm gonna archive it, and you can save it. But this particular trafficker, he actually goes on to say, like, word on the street say there's no, and I don't use that word, N-word, like, then he uses his street name, me. I get more collect calls from 33rd than a bondsman because bitches know I'm real. And, that's really crude language, and it's not language that I use. But what's really bad is that it just shows that, the vulnerability of women that go to prison or they go to jail, and they're just dying to get out of jail because jail really sucks. If and they sugarcoat it. There's girls in the jails with them, and they get bonded out, and it doesn't matter how they get out. They just want to get out, right? And so I just wanted to show you. There's kind of like a cool website, and it's a website that I use a lot. And I use this website for a lot of the human trafficking work that I do. And I'm going to show you how it works. And it's actually called, it's called arrest.org. And it's ARRESTS.org. And here's what we had a trafficker that was working our prison was doing. And it's not just our prison. It's any prison, but if you go to this website, arrest.org, you can click on a lot of different states, and it's going to show you mugshots of all these people that are in jail. And I'm not trying to really show you anybody in particular. I'm not trying to, identify these people, but it doesn't matter what state you're from, right? But you can go to. It doesn't matter if you're in Georgia. Right? You can click Georgia, and then, there's all these counties right here. There's like, 15, 20 counties, and you can use this website. Now, where I work, if you get locked up somewhere, or, if you go to jail where I work, like if somebody gets arrested, you just get fired immediately. Right, Grant? I don't know about you, but if I get a DUI at work, or if I get a DUI, I'm just not coming in the next day because I pretty much just lost my job. Hey, welcome to the show, Grant. But I'm just talking a little bit about human trafficking. But here's like some of the things that make and I try to make it personal. This is how maybe somebody's daughter, might be vulnerable to it being trafficked. Um, they had a thing in North Carolina recently. There was an article about in Fayetteville, and what they had was, they had pimps that were bonding girls out of jail, and and all they had to do was work it off. And like you got these websites where, let me see, let me go where you can, let me see if I can zoom in where you can't really see the pictures of the people, but you can go on this website and you can pick out, I'm shopping, I'm a pimp and I'm going to shop for females, and I want one from this county, and I want one from the age to be like 18 to, I'm looking for one to 25, and then what kind of charge. And so let's get one with a DUI because maybe she's like an alcohol violation, and so all of a sudden I want to, if I click that, I want to get like all these girls in that county with those with those violations, right? Or if I want, I can just, like, if you look at this website, you can see that you can check out all the women that are just like celebrities, or you can check out the ones that are hotties, right? And so I can click on the women that are hotties, right? And some way, I don't really want to be able to identify these women, so I'm kind of backing up. But you can see what they're in for. It's like, oh, okay, she's in for this or that, and she's from this county. And what makes her vulnerable is just the fact that she's in jail and she doesn't have anybody to bond her out. And I've had traffickers that I know personally, that they've worked cases where these guys would like work these websites all day long, and they're looking for certain girls, and I'm trying to make it so you can't really see the girls, but you might have like this girl all of a sudden, one of these girls just starts getting money on her books, and then maybe that one gets money on her books, and then all of a sudden she gets out of jail, and all of a sudden that guy's waiting on her, right? And but then you never know, because this one over here, she's the one that having her boyfriend put money on those books for those girls, and then when those girls get out, when they get out of jail or they're bonded out, they're expected to work that off. Now you might say, well, why does somebody need money in jail? Well, I don't know. Before I was doing this kind of work, I'd never been in jail in my life, and I didn't know anybody been to jail. And let me tell you what, if you really care about your daughter, if she's in jail, okay, so let's say that your daughter goes to jail, and you're gonna do tough love, right? You're all right. You're just gonna have to, you're gonna have to spend the night in jail. You're gonna do your time, right? Or if you get to jail, don't call me because I ain't getting you out, right? You get people like that. The preacher's daughter that winds up in Florida on spring break, and maybe she doesn't want to call dad because because dad's a cop up in Minnesota, and dad's the Mr. Christian type stuff, and dad's gonna find out, and all of a sudden everybody at church is gonna find out, and dad's a human trafficking expert, and so now all of a sudden she's gonna make him look like a dumbass in front of his friends because his wonderful daughter that would never do anything, hey, I'm just hypothetical. Hey, I'm just picking on people. I'm not, I'm just picking on people. There's nothing I'm sure your daughter, whatever. But so don't get mad. But I'm just saying that if you think about maybe somebody's daughter coming down to Florida on spring break, and all of a sudden they just get caught up in something, right? There are so many girls in those jails that get caught up with these prostitutes, or with being prostituted, and when they go to jail, they're required to, a lot of times they're required to recruit other girls. And what was really interesting is like these mugshot websites, like this one, like FloridaArrest.org. You can, like, I can go to Florida's website right here, and I can pick Florida, And we had a trafficker, and it's just not, it's just so common. But like I say, I can pick out the females, and I can pick out the race, or I can pick them out by age and stuff. And if there was a girl that was in a jail, if there's a girl that's in a jail that he wanted, but he didn't have a girl in that jail for some reason, that let's say that she was in the Tampa jail, but he's from Orlando, and so, but he wanted some girl that he saw on the mugshot website, and she's in Tampa. Well, one of his girls is gonna go get arrested for something petty, like shoplifting or something like that, and she's gonna go into that jail, and she's gonna recruit that girl for that guy. So, those are the things that make women vulnerable. And, maybe you're thinking, my daughter would never get caught up in something like that. Daddy's little girl type stuff, or daddy's princess. And one thing I know from having done a lot of the work that I do is that there's one thing a woman loves more than anything else in the world. They crave the love of their fathers. And so the fact that she's going to have to call her dad and get her out of jail because she's way up, and she got somewhere and she got herself in a sticky situation, that makes her vulnerable. And the fact that she's maybe, she's like 18 to 25, she's on college, she's on spring break, that makes her vulnerable. Especially she's from Kansas, she doesn't know anybody. We call them being green. We call them being green, somebody that's like not really street smart. And I can't tell you the number of times that I've been to jails all over the country, and people have no idea who's bonding them out until they get out on the street. There's a woman called Barbara Amaya, and she talked about how she was in a jail. She wrote a book, and she was at Rikers Island, and she was just a kid, and she talked about how she was just miserable there. And somebody actually bonded her out, and they said, "Hey, your family's here to get you, right?" And she walks out, and it's her traffickers. Yeah, it wasn't mom and dad coming to get her; it was the traffickers coming to get her. So pimps do the exact same thing. And I used to think it was just like isolated stuff. I used to think that, hey, it's only here, it's only in Florida, it's only at this county jail, but I've been to states all over the country, and I've talked to women all over the country that have been in this life, and it's actually stunning the amount of people that'll tell you the same thing over and over. And the prepaid bail bonds is huge, where women, they're all part of the same stable, right? And anyway, a lot of these women, you just never know where they're going to end up, and they have these prepaid bail bondsmen. And what's stunning about, hi Dottie, I'll talk to you. Let me see what you said, Dottie. You said, John, I have a friend who reappeared. I didn't know where she was for over a year. Turns out she was incarcerated. I want to contact her. To you, as she witnessed firsthand the things you talk about regarding sexual exploitation, trafficking, and worse. Salvation Army is ready to to begin meeting with prison leadership. That's really good, because as long as I've been doing this, the criminal justice system and the corrections, I mean, they're very, they're not really interested in dealing with this. Now, over the years, having done my work as much as I've done my work, I spent a lot of time talking to these women, and I've taken a lot of training classes about women's entry into the criminal justice system. And it's really horrible, because I didn't realize that women start on the path to prison at about 5. Between 5 and 10 years old is when people start entering. That's when the path to criminal justice, it starts. And generally, statistically, overwhelmingly, what you're going to find is you're going to find women where the mom gets divorced, or there's a baby daddy, and the baby daddy doesn't stick around, right? And so next thing you know, that another boyfriend moves in, and all of a sudden he starts molesting the woman's daughter, and all of a sudden she gets blamed because, well, she shouldn't have dressed like that, or she shouldn't have been, tempting the stepdad, or something like that. And so what you're finding is that, these girls become alienated, and their dad's missing, and they really want that love. They crave the father's love, and it doesn't matter if he's an alcoholic. But so in most cases, and not all, there's exceptions, of course, but if they don't get that love from that male figure, they're going to get it somewhere else, and that's where the pimps come in. The best target for a trafficker is going to be a girl that's maybe got a stepfather that maybe mistreats her. This guy's going to come in, and he's going to show her, hey, I can give you nice things. I got a little money here, and I got a nice car. I give you a place to stay, and maybe we can get you on your feet, and then hey, well, you're 15. Hey, you ought to be able to smoke weed. If you want to come in and come hang out with me, your parents aren't going to report you missing anyway, and it's amazing how many people don't report runaway kids. So anyway, about a year ago, after a lot of work, I started a human trafficking section at the prison library, and I got a lot of really great books from a lot of survivors of human trafficking, and then it kind of evolved, because what I found was, and there's challenges that we're facing with getting women out the door. I've worked with Brent Woody, and he's a really awesome pro bono attorney. We work hand in hand together with a lot of these victims, and and I know that we're supposed to call them survivors, right? But the cold hard reality is a lot of these women show up as victims of, they show up as sex slaves, because they got these guys that have been prostituting them for years, and they get to prison, and they're emaciated, and they're nasty, and they're straggly looking, and their teeth are messed up, and they're thin, and their teeth are all rotted out, and their hair is stringy, and they just got nothing going for them, right? And so it's really unfortunate, but prisons that we have, all they do is they serve as and I hate to use that word, but they are in the business of refurbishing sex slaves for these traffickers. And I know that's a harsh term, and you want me to say survivors, but until I send a survivor out the door, as far as I'm concerned, if I'm going to refurbish a sex slave for somebody, or I'm refurbishing victims, and I'm sending them out the door, back out to the same guy, as far as I'm concerned, I haven't made a whole lot of progress. All I did was I've sent out a refurbished product to that man. And, that's where, and if you talk to Brent Woody, that's the same issue that we've had. So anyway, we've come up, I've worked with some judges in different states. There's a judge that's a friend of mine, and, I've worked with him for years, and he's a really nice guy, and, I really can't stress enough how valuable it would be for somebody to, some of the people down here to really pay this man, or to come down here and talk to you about what he does in his courtroom, because the way he treats women, and his success rate, he has a specialty court, and it's called catch court. And he has these women, and they come down there, and these women have an amazing history, right, of abuse. And these women are all women that have been through all kinds of trauma. And I just want to show, this is like a little graphic from his website. These are the women that participate in his program, and it's called Catch Court, and it's called Changing Actions to Change Habits, right? Now, 90% of the women in Catch program, they've been trafficked according to the legal definition. Now, one of the things that he points out that really sticks in my craw is God bless the kids. I love kids as much as anybody else, but he shows the people that participate in his program, the average age of the women in his that participate in catch court, they're 34 years old. 100% are chemically dependent. They're raped an average of 6 times, and the average arrest over they have average arrests of 13 arrests over a 2-year period. So this is a specialty docket in Columbus, Ohio, and he talks about, some of the challenges that he faces. And, you're going to have these people that are saying that, and this is like a really neat, I'm going to show you, I got to meet him, and here's like he is in his court, and the way he talks to these women is absolutely stunning. He talks about, he has these women, he had a woman that relapsed, and, she came back to his court, and he accepted her back into the program, and he said, we're going to love you as long as, we're going to love you as long as it takes for you to love yourself so that you can get healthy. Another thing that he talks about is he studied the criminology of prostitution and the trauma. So, a lot of the time, these are the people that he talks about, that he deals with. And he's researched this, and he's really well researched. And these statistics come from him, and these are the women that have been through catch court. And he talks about the trauma that they've been through. And 82% of these women are physically assaulted. 83% of them have been raped. 27% by multiple assailants. 35% have sustained broken bones. And 47% have sustained traumatic brain injuries. And so anyway, like I say, he said based on a comprehensive assessment, the percentage of women with prostitution also qualify as human trafficking victims is 92%. So, and then he talks about, one of the things that he talks about is dealing with, I'm going to do a different angle here. And one of the things that he talks about is communities having to deal with human trafficking, and they're devastating. So when you start talking about women that have been involved in prostitution and just having to get them out of this life, he talks about the complex needs of this population. And then when you compound that with women that have been incarcerated, he talks about, these women are dealing with PTSD. They have dental and health problems. They have shame, the post-lifestyle trauma, job skills, parenting, self-esteem, traumatic brain injuries, mental or health care, mental care, societal acceptance, housing, So, so that guy in Ohio, he is like one of my really, he is one of my trafficking heroes, and I'm really trying to implement some things in the criminal justice system where I work, and so anyway, I think I got off topic here, but what I did was I recently started a human trafficking book project, and what it did is it kind of morphed into not just the human trafficking stuff, but I wanted to focus on books that we could get for these women. Let me see here. Hold on, let me look. I wanted to get books for these women that would address a lot of these issues. Over the years, I've had women say to me things. Oh, thanks. Hey, Sarah. Over the years, I've had women say to me, "Hey, John," or not John, but "Hey, Sarge, I really want to get into this GED class. I want to get, I really want to get into this Cosmo class. I want to do this. I want to do that." But the fact of the matter is, I got too much time. I don't have enough time. I don't have jobs. I don't have the job skills, that type of thing. And just having worked with people in the community, I've learned that cosmetology is a really good skill for an ex-offender to have, because it's something that they can do when they get out of prison, and they can make a lot of money real quick. So part of the thing is, we started a really cool book project a while back, and some of you have seen it, and it's not all faith-based, and I'm just gonna like show you. If you go to my webpage, I have my own webpage now, and it's called johnomeekins.com. johnomeekins.com. If you just go there, or you type, Florida Women's Prison Library Book Project, you can see I'm getting like hundreds of books all the time from these women. And what's really cool about the books is, it's something for everybody. And, I've had people comment and they say, hey, I don't really see any Bibles on there, but, if you want to send me a Bible or some Bibles, I'm not going to turn them down. But, the fact is, there's 1 million Bibles in prison, and they're all free. And so, if you really want to send a Bible, you can send one. But, I really feel like, I feel like, you're just like really, how you going to say it, like peeing into the ocean. You're not going to fill it up or trying to empty the ocean. But just to show you, like the success rate that we've had with some of these books that we've sent in. We've gotten a lot of GED books in there. We've got a lot of books on just like cosmetology, passing exams. And so this is a letter that one of my friends got that helps me. And the person said, I hope this letter reaches you in good health and in good spirits. I want to thank you for believing in me when I don't have nobody out there besides me while I'm going through this hard time in my life. Well, anyways, I'm writing you to say I got my GED. Yay! I did it thanks to you and all the books that you sent for me to study with. You and what you are doing for the women like me really is a blessing. Because all no people that all I know is that people were only around for me for what they could get, sex being one. My goal when I am in here is to get as much education and knowledge as I can before I leave. So, this is like a really important thing. Now, some of the books, they're not for everybody, but if you look, Sister Soldier, I was kind of skeptical about her, and I didn't know too much about her, but, I was looking for books, and urban fiction is a really popular topic in prison. In some way, I ended up on Sister Soldier's website, like on her Twitter account, and I couldn't believe, like I say, I was really skeptical about her. And all of a sudden, she ended up calling me, and she said, hey, I saw you talking about human trafficking and stuff and slavery. And she said, my books are really positive, if these women don't want to do prostitution and stuff like that, if it's really not a choice, it doesn't have to be. And she told me that I needed to get a couple of her books, I needed to get 2 or 3 of her books and put them in the prison. And I was kind of skeptical, and then I ended up getting a couple. And then I had other people saying, hey, Meekins, you don't know what you're talking about. Her books are like world famous. They're used in like women's empowerment groups all over the world. And so I got them, and I actually started looking at them, and they're really valuable things. Maybe they're not Christian based or whatever, but the theme is there as far as self-empowerment and that sort of thing. Another aspect of the reentry that I'm interested in, we have a lot of the women that have a lot of issues with trauma, and so I started looking around, and we started getting some yoga books, and we got some anger management books. And one thing we got was this one guy sent a pile of books from the yoga prison project. And then there's a book on cosmetology. And then there's a book I had an inmate that she wanted to do a Bible study. She read Rebecca Bender's book, Road to Redemption, and she wanted to do a Bible study. And so one of her people sent me like a pile of books, and so that was really awesome. And so anyway, these are just kind of the things that we've been doing, and people, they always want to know, hey, how can I help? Or do you take a used book? Yeah, I can take some used books, but, I don't want them like, 1950s, and I don't want them like, really ancient books. But, if you want to mail me a book and it's used, but it's not too beat up, you can send it to John Meekins, Florida Women's Prison Library Book Project. And the reason we do the library book project is because a lot of the books tend to, the books that we do, they go to the library, and so that means that the inmates have to return the books. But anyway, the address would be 588 Fairways Lane, and it's Suite 104, Ocala, Florida, 34472. If you want to buy some brand new books, and that'd be awesome. The women love the new books, and I think that the new books are important because what it shows is that there's people actually care about them enough to send them brand new books. So and like I say, they're not books for everybody. If you're but they're not necessarily for me. But I'm not big into fiction, but and there's some fiction titles on there, but they're motivational books, and they're books about healthy relationships and self-help and stuff. But if you would go to my website, and like I say, it's johnomeekins.com, or you look on my webpage, there's always kind of a list there, and if maybe there's something that you think should be there that you think would benefit some of the work, maybe I could add those books to that list. So Connie Lee, can I post the address, please? Yeah, what do you want me to post? You want me to post the address for the web address, or for the for where to mail books? Okay, the web address, I'll post that for the book list is, hold on. Let's see, hold on. I'll post both on my on the blog there that I'm doing on the thing. Another thing that I really want to give a shout out to before I'm going to log off here in a few minutes, but one of the things that I really want to talk to people about is I have a really good friend that I work hand in hand with, and his name's Brent Woody, and he's an attorney and does really good work, and he's with the West Florida Advocacy Center for Human Trafficking Advocacy, and he does a lot of free work, and he comes to see the inmates at the prison where I work, and he's a really good person, and he doesn't charge anything for trafficking related offenses. Now one thing that disappoints me is that he's the only one in Florida that does this stuff. There's new laws in Florida where people can get their convictions for things that they might have done as victims of human trafficking. They can get those vacated. They can get those expunged. They can get those totally erased as if they never had that charge. And it just doesn't have to be like a prostitution charge. A lot of times if you're a victim of human trafficking, and maybe your drugs is kind of goes hand in hand with human trafficking, so maybe if you had some narcotics on you and you got arrested because you were being forced to hold the drugs while your guy was in the car, if you can prove that, you can probably get those expunged. And one year, I'm sorry, got a frog in my throat. But one year, I had a woman, and she, and I was listening to her, and she was talking about how she'd had a human trafficking or a conviction for prostitution, and she was really crying, and she kept saying, "I'm not that. I'm not a prostitute, but I was being booked for prostitution because she didn't have a choice. Um, and so anyway, you know, she talked about how just having a prostitution conviction, a misdemeanor, even though it might be a year or two old, it's a real pain in the butt. People will not hire. People will not let you move in, get an apartment. It's real because they think you're going to set up a brothel. You can't get loans. You can't get housing and stuff. So they end up having to live in motels and that sort of thing, or move in with boyfriends. But anyway, there's a website called the American Bar Association, and they have a really cool thing. It's called the Survivor Reentry Project, and you can go down there and you can look at the different states that have different laws, like for trafficking survivors. Some of them have vacators of convictions. Some of them are for only 18. And then some states have laws where they only seal convictions, which is not, to me, is not the best thing. To me, it's a vacate, the vacate laws. And we have Brent Woody to thank for that because he's been really instrumental in our state for pushing these laws. So, like I say, he's with the West Florida Trafficking Advocacy. And a lot of you might have him on your Facebook friends list, but he's a really good guy. And I really couldn't do a lot of the work that I do with the women that are survivors without him. And if you happen to know somebody that's a trafficking survivor, you can go to the American Bar Association. They have a Survivor Reentry Project. And you can click on this little thing here, right? And what it does is it pulls up like a little form. And you can fill out your situation and say, you can give some details and, some comments and some questions. And one of these lawyers will get back to you. So like I say, there is help on the way for the survivors. But my biggest issue right now is just trying to get women out the door of the prison in a safe manner. And so those are some of the things that I've been working on as far as, with my book project. Just trying to get these people so that they actually have, job skills, so that, they have the anger management under control. So, like I say, we're working on trying to get somebody that's maybe got like a 3-year sentence and maybe they have prostitution-related charges. And to me, the ultimate thing would be to get them in a program where, maybe they're going through something where they can kind of detox, and maybe we can get them some education, and we can maybe have some community people that say, hey, if you graduate through the Cosmo program, we guarantee you're going to have a job on the other side. And then, maybe we'll put you up for a few weeks, and you'll get a free house, a house with like free rent for a couple weeks, until you get your first check. So I'm really looking at maybe the prison, like I say, the criminal justice system, their money is like really tight. And so it's really up to the NGOs, the non-government organizations. We really need to step up. And we need to get the business community to make these jobs available to these women and assist them. So I'm going to go ahead, and Connie, and I'm going to I'll send you the email address and the link. And I'd really appreciate it if people could like share my broadcast here. And if there's something that maybe I missed or you'd like me to cover, I'm going to try to do these on a regular basis on Facebook Live and I like doing them on Periscope. So if there's something I can do or a topic you'd like, please let me know. FAC Save the Children at hotmail.com. My email address, if you want to contact me, my email is J-O, like, John Oscar, Meekins at Comcast.net. Brent Woody, he can probably tell you about the petitions to vacate, or about the statute of limitations. I know that the statute of limitations in some states, they're starting to eliminate those. Now, I don't know how far back, the criminal convictions can go, but I mean, I know a lot of people that are getting them. And, Brent Woody, he's got to the point where it's just a matter of filling out a form and going down to the courthouse and filling this stuff out, especially if it's in Florida. But, if it's something that happened in a different state, it might be a different story. But I would definitely contact the American Bar Association, and I can send you the link to them on their Survivor Reentry Project. And I really feel that it's important. Hey, Rick Youngquist, how are you? What can I do for you? Hey, Connie, just, we're Facebook friends, right? Yeah, there you are. Yeah, we're actually we're not. I'm going to add you to my Facebook friends list, all right? And I guess you're in Cuba, Missouri, right? And anyway, I'll send you a link to my website where you can find out more about the book project that I do. And it's something I really want to roll out to other states. So if there's anything I can do for anybody, if you guys have anybody that you might think would be interested in this broadcast, I'd really like to have people share it. I'm going to try to do more, in the future. Maybe I could just like post them on different sites or something like that. But like I say, it's my passion, and it's something in me that's not going to go away. And like I'd like to really try to find a job doing something like this full time. I've been working with a lot of agencies all over the country. I've done work with the Department of Justice. A few weeks ago, I found a 15-year-old online on Backpage, and it was so easy. I took a class recently with the FBI, and it was funny because I trained them about what I do, and then all of a sudden they trained me what they do. And it was kind of funny because, like, they thought what I do was, like, really out of the box. It was so cool, and, hey, this is great. And then all of a sudden, they trained me on some stuff. And all of a sudden, I started tearing things up. And I started finding, I used my newfound skills. And, I'm at the point where I can identify a girl on Backpage pretty quick, just with a few little tips and tricks. So, like I say, I'd really like to... maybe go work for like Homeland Security or something like that. But I think I'm too old for them. But I've done work for like there's like human rights groups in Iraq. They're doing like the Rule of Law Project. So that's kind of what I've been doing with them. But if there's anything you'd like to ever want to ask me, you can always email me. Yeah, and I like public speaking. So if you could like ever fly me somewhere and you want to hear a presentation, I can do that. And I'm really good with, I can bring all kinds of survivors with with me. And, I don't really charge that much for me, but if I bring a survivor, if it's just like Central Florida, I'd really want them to get paid, like $100. My fee's not that much, but, if I gotta fly somewhere, it's a little more. But, I feel like I have a lot of information, and it's not just geared towards, it's not just about prisons and inmates and stuff. I have a lot of really good information for law enforcement and parents and school people and just a wide variety of people. All right? Well, thank you, Connie, and I really appreciate it. And if there's anybody else who would like to talk to me, by all means, I'm going to be back, and I'll probably do another one this afternoon. Thank you.